Jessica Stone strolled leisurely along the East River boardwalk, lost in thought about what she was going to cook for dinner that night. Every 100 steps, Jessica had to stop for a moment to regain her strength and catch her breath. This was all because she was 5 months into her pregnancy, and her very obvious round belly was a clear indication of that. What about roast duck with apples? Dexter loved that the last time, she muttered to herself, smiling. Jessica wanted to please her boyfriend so much that she was willing to spend hours upon hours in the kitchen. Her daydreaming was suddenly cut short by a ruckus coming from the other side of the embankment. As she peered into the distance, Jessica could make out the silhouettes of 3 strangers in the evening twilight, kicking someone lying on the pavement. "Take that, you hillbilly. If I ever see you here again, you'll be sorry," exclaimed one of the attackers angrily. The man slumped over the sidewalk, tried to get back onto his feet. He was instantly met with a barrage of painful kicks and punches that dropped him right back down into a curled-up position. Jessica was so shocked by what she saw that she immediately rushed over to help the poor man. Swinging her purse from side to side, like a mythical Amazonian woman, Jessica burst into the thick of the battle. "Get away from him before I call the police." "You think you're brave when there's 3 of you and 1 of him?" Jessica cried out, huddling over the young man on the pavement. When they saw this furious pregnant woman in front of them, the bullies slowly started to back away. None of them wanted to deal with the police, and the woman was definitely one to call them at the drop of a hat. The thugs were bewildered to say the least, and Jessica took advantage of it and helped the poor man get on his feet. "Let's get out of here before they change their minds," she suggested, pulling the young man as the thugs teased him and called them names from a distance. Jessica was surprised to see no trace of fear or sadness in the young man's eyes. Despite the cuts and bruises on his face, the young man still found the strength to smile and wink at his savior. He did so with such composure and grace that Jessica couldn't help but smile back. "Why did they attack you? What did you do to those bastards?" she asked, pausing to catch her breath. "I don't know. I guess they didn't like how I looked. I flew to New York from a small town in Idaho. I work in construction, and I don't know the city too well. So I asked a passerby for directions to the mall, and those jerks jumped me," the young man explained with a disappointed sigh. Jessica responded by shaking her head with sympathy. She cleaned the blood off the man's split eyebrow using a handkerchief from her purse. Later on, Jessica learned that the young man's name was Connor Hawk and that he grew up in a poor family with 4 siblings. Since there wasn't much work back home, the determined young man decided to try his fortune in New York, a childhood dream of his. Unfortunately, owing to his innocence and simplicity, Connor fell victim to a band of hooligans who could immediately tell that he wasn't local. "Thank you for your help. This is the first time in my life that a woman had to stand up for me, and a pregnant one at that," said Connor, embarrassed. "Oh, come on. I think those bastards were more scared than I was. So it wasn't too bad. I even forgot that I had a tummy for a moment," Jessica said with a smile. Connor blushed at this and lowered his eyes. He was ashamed that he didn't stand up for himself and that he had been targeted by some petty street thugs. After chatting with Jessica for about a half an hour more, Connor finally had to bid her farewell, as his night shift would start very soon. "Take care of yourself, Connor, and be safe," said Jessica, waving at him as she left. All this had taken up a lot of Jessica's time, which meant that she needed to pick up the pace so she could quickly get to preparing dinner for her beloved boyfriend. But as Jessica turned the corner to her street, one she had known all her life, her heart skipped a beat. There were no lights on in the windows of her house on Main Street. Where is Dexter? Could he still be at work? Jessica thought as she opened the door. On the table, the woman found something that made her freeze. There was a note, clearly written in Dexter's handwriting. In the note, Dexter confessed that he was leaving Jessica for another woman, one that he had been seeing for a long time now. In the end, Dexter added that he had made this decision a while ago and had been just waiting for the right moment to let Jessica know. How could this be? leaving me to fend for myself with a child on the way," Jessica whispered with tears in her eyes. Jessica couldn't believe this nightmare, that her loving fiancé would leave her 4 months before the birth of their child. The woman's mind was all fuzzy, and any thoughts about what dinner to cook for Dexter vanished into thin air. The days, months, and even years that followed seemed to go by in some sort of fog for Jessica. First, it was the complicated birth of her long-awaited child, and then having to raise him all on her own. All of Jessica's time and energy was spent on being a young, single mother. Only her little boy Jacob, with all the attention and care he needed, kept Jessica from giving up and sinking into the abyss of depression. The woman had no shoulder to cry on, no one to help her. She grew up in an orphanage and never knew what it meant to be loved or cared for. 6 years flew by, and the lives of both Jessica and her son took a turn for the worse. At a routine checkup, little Jacob was diagnosed with early-stage congenital heart disease. For the poor boy and his mother, this meant only one thing. Jacob would have to undergo a risky and expensive surgery in the near future. Where am I going to get that kind of money? I work as a waitress in a coffee shop. It would take me years to raise the money for the surgery. Jessica blurted out in tears. The pediatric heart surgeon only shook his head in response, signaling that the conversation was over. Jessica did everything possible to save her son and tried whatever she could to raise the money for the surgery. To this end, the desperate single mother even decided to visit her ex-fiancé Dexter, who she hasn't spoken to in 6 years. To Jessica's great surprise, however, her ex-fiancé was nowhere to be found. As it turned out, he was incarcerated and was serving a 3-year prison sentence for financial fraud. Dexter's mother wasn't of much help either. "I'm sorry, Jessica, but I really don't have any money right now. I spent all my savings on lawyers for my son," said Pamela Morris with a guilty look. Jessica saw no sympathy whatsoever in Pamela's frustrated eyes. Mrs. Morris also made it very clear that she had her doubts as to Dexter being Jacob's real father. After a sour goodbye, Jessica left her ex-fiancé's parents' house, where she only had been a few times before. Jessica felt that she wasn't welcome there and decided to erase Dexter and everything associated with him from her memory forever. On her way home, Jessica walked down that same boardwalk where she had saved Connor Hawk from a band of thugs 6 years earlier. Looking out over the majestic blue river, the woman realized that by now she had lost all hope. There was no way she was going to put together the money she needed for Jacob's treatment. Jessica's eyes welled up with tears. People passing by took notice, but nothing could alleviate her sorrow. A quarter of a mile in, Jessica suddenly heard the pleasant voice of a man somewhere behind her. "Well, well, Jessica, you haven't changed one bit. Still sitting along the waterfront, reminiscing?" Hearing these words, Jessica slowly turned around and spotted Connor Hawk, all grown up, standing right in front of her. Only now, unlike the first time they met, Connor looked respectable and resembled a successful businessman as opposed to a poor construction worker. "Connor, what in the world? I thought you had gone back to Idaho," Jessica exclaimed in surprise. "I decided to stay. I got a job as a foreman and saved quite a bit of money. Then I opened my own construction firm. Now I've got contracts with a bunch of local companies," Connor said with a smile. Jessica tried to smile as best she could, but started crying instead. "Hey, what's wrong, Jessica? Are you feeling sick?" Connor asked anxiously and stepped closer. Jessica suddenly felt the urge to speak her mind and share all her feelings with the one person she could call her friend. And that's what Jessica did. She told Connor everything that had happened to her during those long 6 years. "Yeah, that's quite the situation you're in. Don't worry, Jessica. I think I can help. I have some savings, and sure, that's not enough to pay for the surgery, but I can take out a mortgage on the house and the company." Connor started speaking. At first, Jessica thought she had misheard him. She thought she was just imagining things. But no, when she looked into Connor's gleaming eyes, she understood that he was being dead serious, and this was actually happening. It took about a week to raise the money. Connor Hawk not only paid for Jacob's surgery, but also invested a significant amount of money into the boy's future rehabilitation at one of the best facilities in Miami. Jessica couldn't have imagined that saving a random young man from some thugs 6 years ago would eventually lead to saving her son in the future. Connor, unlike Dexter, turned out to be more than just a man of his word. He also became a wonderful and loyal friend to Jessica and was always around to help her out. Over time, their friendship became so close that they decided to start their own family, one based on trust and honesty. Bound by their similar values, Jessica and Connor finally found the true love they'd been dreaming of for so many years. A bit later, Jacob was told the wonderful news that he'd soon have a brother or a sister, and it was only a matter of time before Jessica gave birth. This meant only one thing for the happy, radiant boy. Their home would soon be filled with the joyous laughter of children, turning their family life into a true fairy tale.